The Dead Sea, it's dead because all the water comes down and it has no place to go.
The Dead Sea, it's known for its healing properties, helping those with chronic pain, arthritis, migraines, and anxiety.
Previously displayed as fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls after an embarrassing discovery.
Symbol of what man can do to the nature, and without even knowing that he's doing it.
Once abundant with life and water, the Dead Sea now is shrinking every year, revealing many ancient mysteries and untold stories, offering a unique glimpse into the past. Shocking, intriguing, and dreadful. Hold your breath for the astonishing discoveries made in the Dead Sea that even scared the scientists. Scroll fragments. Imagine the thrill experienced when a group of researchers stumbled upon fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Discovered near the Dead Sea in the 1940s and 1950s, the Dead Sea Scrolls are ancient manuscripts and are among the oldest known biblical texts. Dating back around 2,000 years, they are considered one of the most impressive archaeological finds. These fragments include parts of the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, as well as other religious writings previously unknown, and are revealing more and more about history.
These are the things you are to do: speak the truth to one another, render true and perfect justice in your gates.
Unsinkable waters. The Dead Sea has a very high salt concentration. This we know, so it's much denser than regular seawater. This means every time you try to dunk in its steamy saline waters, you'll simply float back to the surface.
Dead Sea is about 8 times saltier than the ocean, so the water is incredibly dense, and that makes it the easiest place in the world to stay afloat.
The saltier water pushes your body up more strongly than gravity pulls it down, preventing sinking or diving. So it's nearly impossible to sink into. Don't believe me? Just look at these people. Almost everyone has tried to go below the waves, but it takes a lot of weight to do so. I wouldn't suggest trying this though. Its high salt concentration stings your eyes, and it's really painful. Underwater adventure. Remember how I told you it's nearly impossible to sink or dive in the Dead Sea because of the high salinity? Well, in 2021, a group of researchers from Ben Gurion University managed the impossible. After loading themselves with unimaginable amounts of weight, the team dove into the stagnant water and were surprised to see the unique world and new life forms. The sea, believed to only contain dwindling life, also has groundwater springs that gurgle underwater. Who would have thought? The one water believed to be uninhabitable is creating its own world down there. Dead Sea Sinkholes. As beautiful as the Dead Sea is, it's suffering severely due to recent droughts, which continue to afflict the area. As a result, thousands of sinkholes are emerging from the grounds and offering a depressing contrast to the vibrant waters. These sinkholes are lined with salt deposits thanks to the Dead Sea's high salinity, which is only making it easier for the land to collapse. As much as environmentalists and conservationists are trying to protect the Dead Sea, they're failing, because this can only be stopped if the Earth stops suffering from climate change.
Dead Sea has a character, it has a personality, and I feel like that personality is dying.
Salt pearls. While other shores comprise golden sands, the Dead Sea's shore is made from white pearls. Hot temperatures evaporate the water, leaving behind salt particles that gradually roll in the wind to form perfect pearls. But that's not the only marvelous thing that happens at the Dead Sea. Sometimes, the salt crystals accumulate in a cubic pattern, leading to perfect geometrical cubes.
Amazing natural phenomenon. This is salt cube.
Lucky beachgoers have stumbled upon this amazing phenomenon quite a few times. Even some daredevils have tried to taste it, but it's extremely salty, and honestly might not be so healthy. So I'll just stick to watching them from afar. Dozens in peril. A couple of tourists cruising along the southern Pacific coast in Mexico were stunned to see dozens of olive ridley sea turtles floating lifelessly, driven away by the shore. Tourists immediately alerted authorities, who set out to investigate. The turtle bodies totaled over 300, making it one of the most extreme marine incidents in the area. After evaluating the site, researchers concluded the turtles had become trapped in a ghost or illegal fishing net, which prevented them from moving and getting food.
The minute they leave the nest on the beach, they have predators like birds, larger fish that are after them because they're very small when they're born.
This sparked fury in environmentalists who protested against illegal trapping methods and called for the government to take action.
Pollution that's out there. Turtles will see things like plastic bags or shiny objects that are plastic.
A depressing beach. In Tanza Bay, Philippines, beachgoers were shocked to see a giant whale shark that drifted ashore. Believing the shark had beached itself, they ventured forward to help. To their shock, the poor whale shark had passed away. Initially, authorities assumed the whale shark had succumbed to a bigger predator, but no such signs suggested this. After more investigations, researchers revealed rising temperatures made it challenging for marine life to survive, and had become too much for this poor creature to bear.
There is an opportunity now to keep those temperature increases within bounds that the ocean can cope with.
Brazilian dinosaurs. Discovered in 2016 in Brazil, this dinosaur fossil dates back several million years, and yet was found complete, making it Brazil's most complete dinosaur ever found. The fossil is assumed to belong to a member of the Titanosaurs family, long-necked creatures that thankfully fed on vegetation. Researchers are still looking into dinosaur bones. They believe these bones will answer a lot of questions about our ancestors and ancient human civilizations. Well, I for one can't wait to find out! Crystal skull. This is what happens to an animal if it stays in the Dead Sea's waters for a long time. This antelope skull was found, encrusted with white salt, which had accumulated after only a few months of being submerged in the water. Roman sword. In a secluded cave by the Dead Sea, archaeologists have unearthed a remarkable find: 4 1,900-year-old swords. The swords possess wooden and leather scabbards, giving us an insight into weaponry and human advancement centuries ago. According to historians, these swords belong to Jewish fighters who participated in a revolt against the Roman Empire. The swords were sent to the rightful authorities for further investigation, but archaeologists around the world are calling it the discovery of a lifetime. Container of hope. Floating out in the sea is one of the world's toughest jobs because you don't find anything but waves for miles and miles. This is why this group of Turkish fishermen was extremely excited at the sight of the floating container, which happened to cruise by their boat. They quickly hauled the container toward their boat and found hundreds of high-quality cigars, a treat for these lonely fishermen out at sea. These fishermen were actually doing their part. The container could have been a huge hazard for boats at night, but the hole they made would fill the container with water, sinking it to the sea and preventing any accidents. Ancient footsteps. In the Kalasin province in Thailand, a group of explorers stumbled across deep impressions in the ground. The land was incredibly soft, with the impressions set deep and shaped curiously. After a thorough examination, archaeologists were able to identify the prints, which were actually the footprints of dinosaurs that walked the earth some millions of years ago. Once the news broke, hundreds of eager tourists flocked to the area, which was initially sealed for research. Now, it's become a popular tourist spot. Bovidae fossils. 5 years back in Turkey, archaeologists were thrilled to unearth ancient fossils belonging to members of the Bovidae, or ancient cattle and other hoofed creatures that walked the earth some 7.5 million years ago. The fossils were embedded in stone and were excavated after skilled archaeologists determined their location. Just look how well preserved they are. Although they no longer bear resemblance to their majestic predecessors that walk today, their bones will clue us in about ancient animals. Family of swimmers. Well, this is something you don't see every day. This bacon family is eagerly cruising the waters, almost like they do this every day. A bunch of tourist boaters exploring the Black Sea came across this extraordinary spectacle and decided to lock the moment. I must say, it's surely an unusual one, because how many times can you say you've seen pigs swimming? And look at these hogs! The head of the family even swims after the boat when it senses danger. I don't know where they're going, but they all mean business. Unexpected end. We've all heard plastic harming sea animals, but what about the other way around? In a bizarre event, a bunch of beachgoers pulled a plastic bottle encased in dozens of marine creatures. Among these odd collections of creatures were bees, mussels, tube snails, sponges, tunicates, and even scallops.
Bee attached to it. Numerous mussels, tube snails, tunicates, sponges, unbelievable.
Sadly, all of these creatures had passed away and were discovered weeks later during a coastal cleanup. Who knows how they ended up like this? The Mythical Naga. People in Thailand strictly believe in Naga, the mythological creature with a half-human and half-cobra body. So when a similar one emerged from drying riverbeds near a temple in Muang Rayong, most were excited and curious. After quickly unearthing the creature, they realized it was a statue that paid homage to the mythical Naga, with a dragon-like face and a cobra-like body. This Naga bore jewel eyes. Because of its unique location, many assume the Naga statue belonged to a real-life Naga that once guarded the temple. Ancient War Zone. In northeast Germany, drying riverbeds revealed a horrible find. Several human bones, scattered and submerged in stone. After excavation, archaeologists took the remains for study, as they were expecting the bones to be a few centuries old.
It's really clear that the trauma exercised on these bones was tremendous.
But to their surprise, these bones dated back at least 2,000 years.
Many of the finds date to the same period as the battle, stretching back to the Neolithic around 3000 BCE.
That's not the only amazing thing. Hundreds of tools, trinkets, and other relics accompanied these ancient bones, giving us a glimpse into ancient warriors and their journey to the area.
I'm looking at this guy who's got a nasty injury. The top of his femur has just snapped like a twig.
And researchers hope to reveal more about ancient civilizations. Prehistoric Life. In Kongan City in Thailand, recently, archaeologists have unearthed prehistoric human bones that might date back a couple of centuries. Interestingly, they further dug out prehistoric pots and pans, some shaped from clay, while others were cast out of stones. Their remarkable condition and practical nature gives us a glorious insight into our ancestors. It's so moving to think, while we're living our own lives, our ancestors walking the earth hundreds and thousands of years ago were living similarly. Car Graveyard. The Cavern of Lost Souls in Wales begins with an eerie descent into darkness, and suddenly opens into hundreds upon hundreds of old-fashioned cars, stacked upon each other.
You may see the cars right here, but they're also leading deep underground in the water.
The car graveyard might not look impressive at first, but it has left many scratching their heads. How is this even possible? How did all these cars cram into a single small cave? And who is behind all this fiasco? The only logical explanation is that these cars were piled half a century or more ago, and the cave gradually sank in to close off the exits. But I'm still sitting here in disbelief. Leviathan Skeleton. In a cave in Krabi Province, Thailand, onlookers were shocked when authorities unveiled a giant human skeleton. The skeleton measured several feet and is so tall, it would tower over two tall people stacked over one another. Now, while you and I may think it's an impressive find, the skeleton doesn't belong to a prehistoric behemoth. In fact, this skeleton is an art installation, or a model designed by the local authorities to attract visitors and promote tourism. Although, you know what would be really funny? Archaeologists hundreds of years from now discovering this giant skeleton. Rat King.
Это как она умеет такие вещи делать?
Now, this masterpiece of strange phenomenon was filmed in Russia when a farmer was surveying his crops to check the possible presence of rodents in his fields. Moving the branches apart, he saw a bizarre cluster of rats entangled and trembling to get free.
Почему я именно решил снять видео?
Uncanny at first. Later, this unusual rodent bundle turned out to be a rat king. A collection of rats whose tails intertwined and bound together. Usually, rats found in this situation don't survive. Yet, it was for the first time that a living rat king of 5 was spotted. Uma. When a local pond drained in Japan, citizens were horrified to see a mysterious creature splashing in the receding waves. Immediately dubbed Uma, the creature invoked curiosity and invited a couple of daredevils who were eager to get a closer look. One of them even went as far as to dive into the lake, and equipped with the right tools, this brave man managed to catch the creature. And here it is. This turtle-like mysterious creature may prompt many rumors, but it looks like an animatronic figure to me. Well, that was quite an unexpected find. Ancient village. In 2022, Spain experienced one of its most devastating droughts. And apart from this destruction, emerged an entire village that was submerged 31 years ago. Covered in mud and reeking with unpleasant odor, the village that once housed happy citizens now bears scars of its demise. Curious onlookers also discovered cars, old TV sets, beer bottles, and other remnants of the village's occupants. Interestingly, those who had evacuated the village also returned to see it, although they were understandably emotional at its state. Cave and Souls. In 2020, an eager naturalist entered a mysterious cave and made a disturbing discovery. Inside that cave, he found human remains that belonged to an ancient civilization.
ここで誰か食われてんだけど、ゲジゲジに。
Presumably, one that lived in Japan or a similar East Asian nation. The bones were embedded inside the cave and scattered along a group of house centipedes. Bones were collected for testing, and according to initial investigations, these remains might date back 1,000 years. Awakened Dragon. A group of teens were exploring a riverbed in Thailand when one of them noticed a narrow opening in the ground. Thinking of a treasure, they immediately look inside. But what they found was far more precious. An ancient dragon figurine fashioned out of gold and bearing jewel eyes. This remarkable finding represented the prehistoric Naga. Excited teens wanted to take the find home, but they later returned it to the authorities. A spiritual city. Once, a stunning temple in Thailand's Lopburi province was submerged underwater for 2 decades due to the construction of a dam nearby. A significant decrease in the reservoir unveiled the temple's ruins, including a striking 13-foot headless Buddha statue, whose body still stands erect within the temple. The temple also assisted an ancient city, which still bore houses and other buildings. The government decided to preserve the city and temple for as long as possible. Now, it's a popular tourist spot, and thousands flock from all over the world to prostrate in front of the Buddha. Historical Road. An area in Thailand believed to be a source of the Lam Takon River began to dry out as a result of severe droughts. To people's surprise, out emerged an ancient road, which dated back several decades. The road was first built sometime during the 1960s, or even earlier, but was stopped being used after water was rerouted to the area through a dam. Now, people are using the same road to travel through the city and marvel at its great infrastructure, which remarkably stood against the tests of time. Prehistoric Elephant. The elephant village in Hua Hin district, Thailand, is no stranger to these gentle creatures. Yet, most archaeologists were surprised when receding waters revealed mastodon bones, dating back several centuries. Among these old-timers, archaeologists also unearthed elephant bones that dated back just a few decades. It's so odd and unique to think an ancestor and a predecessor were buried in the same area, some centuries apart. Once local authorities found out, they collected the skeletons and buried them in an undisturbed, undisclosed location. Russian tanker. When drought struck Russia, its rivers exposed hundreds of war relics and weapons dating back to the destructive world wars. One of them included a hefty tank weighing several tons. At first, the tank only exposed one part of its body, but once it was discovered, authorities and citizens united to pull the rusty tank from the water. You can see the tank here, lying soberly, hinting at the atrocities it witnessed and participated in decades ago. Concerning Carcass. In August 2020, tourists fishing in a river in Japan's Miyagi Prefecture were taken aback when a mysterious creature floated upstream. Initially, it was assumed to be a statue carved from wood that had simply drifted ashore, but upon a closer look, it turned out to be an animal carcass. Unsure where the carcass floated from, many thought it had passed away somewhere close and ventured into the canals with the waves. One of the onlookers finally turned the carcass on its side and realized it belonged to the Asian civet. Bovine skull. A guy decided to free dive to the bottom of a local river and stumbled upon something from old times.
Holy crap.
At first, he thought it would be odd-shaped stones or even fish, but when he picked it up, it was a bison skull, which looked like it had only recently sunk below. Although this skull looks relatively fresh, it's possible the bison had passed away a few decades ago, but its skin remained preserved in the water. Well, there are countless theories, but let's keep them in the depths where they belong, huh? In 2013, a river in Shanghai mysteriously unveiled floating carcasses of thousands of pigs. Initially, only a few of the carcasses floated up, prompting rumors about a crocodile lurking in the waters. But within just a few hours, around 6,000 pig carcasses came floating to the water's surface, confusing the citizens. The government explained the pigs had frozen to their demise in a separate uptown river and floated below during summers. However, the two rivers don't cross paths, so most took this explanation with a grain of salt. While the authorities quickly cleaned up the carcasses and disposed of them safely, the mystery behind the pigs' demise is still unsolved. Explosive discovery. In August 2018, Thai authorities rushed to the Mekong River after being informed of a concerning discovery. They discovered the river had exposed part of a giant World War II bomb, which had yet to explode. So the authorities quickly evacuated the area and carefully retrieved the explosive device. However, a careful analysis revealed the bomb probably wouldn't detonate, so they left it in a safe space, where even reporters interviewed alongside it. Man's best friend. In the Sitep Historical Park, Thailand, archaeologists unearthed a 1,700-year-old human skeleton, accompanied by the remains of a dog. That gave rise to two theories. Either the human-dog duo were out on an adventure and succumbed to an unknown tragedy and passed away together, or one of the two passed away earlier and the other was buried alongside to honor their friendship. Whatever the case, this burial is a great representation of a dog's loyalty. Mysterious skeleton body. In an undisclosed location in Russia, a drying riverbed exposed an entrance to a cave, where one daredevil explorer stumbled upon this skeleton. Although the skeleton looks remarkably preserved, it dates back a century or more, bearing an amazingly preserved trench coat and even a scarf bearing sequins. Ever since the video was posted, many are scrambling to find the cave, but most have lucked out. Some suggest it belongs to a grandmother who sought shelter during the World Wars, while others suggest it's just a classic prank. Pit of danger. Climbing down the ladder at such a narrow spot is probably nerve-wracking in itself, and then imagine doing it with a heap of hungry gators teeming at the edge. This guy managed to carefully swerve the ladder, but it looks like his gait won't be supporting him anytime soon. I knew this hanging root wasn't sturdy enough, but if this happened to me, I definitely wouldn't survive. The gators probably already had something to eat. Otherwise, we all know what happens when a hungry predator meets a ready-made meal. Prehistoric Boat. In 2015, droughts in Thailand unveiled an impressive 1,000-year boat. Although it had submerged deep in the water, it was stunningly preserved. The prehistoric vessel was pieced together by ancient Arab techniques. It even came with trinkets, ancient pottery, and other remnants of its once sea crew, and thus is considered one of the best archaeological finds from the area. The boat has since been taken in by authorities, who plan to reveal it in a museum after its complete restoration. Mysterious animals. A drying river in Thailand revealed ancient animal bones dating back several thousand years, and possibly belonging to a species we've yet to learn about. The skull resembles a crocodile's, while the rest of its body bore a resemblance to a small shark, leaving archaeologists and biologists confused. Of course, ever since its discovery in 2021, the local authorities have collected the bones and plan on studying them in great detail. According to archaeologists, this remarkably intact skeleton could clue them in about extinct species, or even support the theory of evolution. Leeches and Flies. In a creek alongside a forest, a young explorer stumbled upon this curious sight. Hundreds of tiny white creatures moving mystically, but upon getting closer, he was disgusted to find out it was a swarm of fly larvae and horse leech feasting on something. Such sights are quite common near waterholes and other river bodies where animals visit. Occasionally, animals that pass away drift to the waves, where such fly and leech swarms form. Gates of Hell. A man's journey into the darkness became one of his most horrifying memories when he decided to enter an ancient mining cave in Pennsylvania.
On the other side of this hole, straight to hell.
Broken tools, axes, mining carts, and remnants of miners were telling the stories of the owners who might have used those gadgets several years back. After successfully crossing a tricky terrain, he discovered giant gates with no way beyond. Unable to cross the gate, he dubbed it the Gates of Hell, because they led nowhere and looked eerily terrifying. 50 carcasses. In the Sarang River, Indonesia, dozens of mysterious carcasses floated above and drifted to the rocks. Horrified by the sudden emergence, most were unaware that the carcasses belonged to goats. The goat carcasses totaled over 50, and concerned farmers who believed a mysterious creature was hurting their livestock. However, authorities declared the goat had passed away from natural causes and had simply drifted in the water to the mainland. Elephant carcass. Explorers visiting Lake Kinnear in Malaysia were horrified when they stumbled upon a rotting elephant corpse. Floating calmly in the waters, the poor creature bore signs of decomposition. The elephant had also succumbed to bites from marine animals, which gathered to prey on the creature. Investigators immediately began looking into its cause of demise. Initial reports suggested the elephant had caught itself in a snare and drifted to the waters after passing away. Lake authorities safely removed the carcass and buried it somewhere deep in the neighboring jungle. Land from river. A group of tourists in India were exploring a local river when suddenly the ground started quaking and land emerged from the riverbed. With giant cracks along its muddy walls, the entire land suddenly rose to 10 feet and stopped on its own. This once-in-a-lifetime moment was luckily recorded on camera and shared online. As amazing as it is to look at, this isn't a geological phenomenon. Scientists suggest this might be the result of bad farming. Still, no one is exactly sure about the actual reason. Thank you very much for watching the video. Do like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to not miss any of the upcoming amazing videos. thank you once again.